over 100 of bin Laden's personal documents were released by US intelligence in March 2016. Within them, bin Laden talks in great detail about his desires, fears and frustrations relating to al-Qaeda and trying to establish an Islamic State, something that ISIS has claimed to have since created in Syria. Some who have analysed the letters also feel they provide invaluable insight into why ISIS will eventually fail. So what exactly did bin Laden's letters have to say about the Islamic State? Well, the majority of the letters were written after 9/11, when bin Laden was in hiding in Pakistan. He was extremely wary about establishing an Islamic State for fear of a US attack, saying, "Even though we were able to militarily and economically exhaust and weaken our greatest enemy before and after the 11th, the enemy continues to possess the ability to topple any state we establish. Therefore, the more we can conduct operations against America, the closer we get to uniting our efforts to establish an Islamic State." For bin Laden, establishing an Islamic State simply couldn't happen unless the US was out of the picture. ISIS, by contrast, have invested the majority of its interest in seizing territory in Iraq and Syria in order to establish a Sunni Islamic State, though this may change given the fact that the US and other allies have stepped up their attacks on the terror group, exactly the reaction bin Laden had feared with a potential al-Qaeda state. In another letter, he stresses that jihadi fighters should avoid publicizing brutality in order to win supporters, saying they should avoid publishing pictures of prisoners after they were beheaded, which is again in stark contrast to the way ISIS present themselves, releasing grotesquely violent videos of prisoners being killed. Yet current al-Qaeda members haven't exactly followed all of their former leaders' instructions either. In a correspondence with one high-level al-Qaeda commander, bin Laden insists that their fighters should refrain from using violence against other Muslims, again to win support, commenting, "Muslims in general and the Mujahideen in particular need to hear you cautioning them on the serious matter of shedding Muslim blood unjustly." Now, al-Qaeda has condemned ISIS, who have killed thousands of Muslims, both Sunni and Shia. Yet this attitude is hypocritical given that al-Qaeda has also been accused of doing the same. But this kind of back and forth also speaks to a brutal rivalry that has emerged between al-Qaeda and ISIS in recent years, as the two networks compete for funding, prestige and recruits. According to one CIA officer in the Middle East, bin Laden was in fact terrified of a jihadist civil war, fearing that fighting with allies would weaken al-Qaeda, which to some extent it has, and by seizing control of territory in Syria and Iraq, ISIS has superseded al-Qaeda as the more domineering jihadi group. The question is, for how long? As bin Laden wrote back in 2010, if a controlling force that enjoys the support of the majority where it has taken control fails to provide for the basic needs of the people, it will lose their support. Though ISIS has gained control of cities like Mosul, there are numerous reports that they are unable to maintain and win the support of residents. And of course, it's largely because of the violence, but in part it's also because their finances are dwindling. Coalition airstrikes, global oil prices falling, and the supply cuts by the Iraqi government have diminished funds, leading to heavy taxation and inflation across ISIS territory. According to reports, some food items have doubled and even tripled in price since the end of 2015. And bin Laden's words certainly seem to have a prophetic truth to them, as many residents and even former fighters have started fleeing ISIS-controlled territories. Perhaps that is what makes these letters so important. As the former leader of one of the most prolific terror groups in existence, bin Laden's words provide insights into the fears, failures and weaknesses of a terrorist organization. Insights that could prove invaluable in the fight against ISIS.